Hello everyone, my name is Seb van Leest, and this is the first video in our third series called Game Analysis. We shall do this video once per week, where we shall take an online game, whether I have played, or I've found people online who've played this game, we shall analyse it, we shall break it down, and we shall explain to you basically why certain moves were played, and why certain moves weren't. Here we have Owen Eckley, his online username is Eckley1, and Dynamite94, who is actually Michael Coyne. This game was played on the website chess.com. As you can see from the title, it was a blitz game, 10 plus 0, which means you have 10 minutes on your chess clock, no extra time at all. You can also see that it was played on the 24th of March this year. But we shall work our way through the game and find out what happened. Eckley opened with 1 e4, as you can see from the notation. Michael responded with 1 to c5. It is called the Sicilian opening. There is an island off the southwest end of Italy called Sicily, and this opening is named after that island because the very first player to play this opening was from Sicily. This is probably the best response from Black's perspective. If you've ever seen 1 e4 played against you, if you have the black pieces, you play c5. And there are various different ideas Black can play from here. White's most common response is to play knight to f3, new variation. That was not played in this game. d3 was played. And Michael responded with knight to c6. Owen played knight to c3, e6, knight f3, bishop e7. If you notice, these two squares are the same color. And these two squares are the same color. Black is called the long diagonal, and so is this. But why is that relevant, you may ask? Well, we know bishops are fantastic on diagonals. If you put each of your bishops, as you can see Michael has done, he's popped one bishop here. This bishop could end up on this diagonal, and if you put the bishops on the two longest diagonals on the chessboard, they are at their best. That's their most potential, they're at least their most potential, and you can really optimize the ability of a bishop by placing it on the long diagonals of the chessboard. As you can see, Michael's already placed one bishop on this diagonal. You put the other bishop by moving this pawn. You put the other bishop here, and you're going to have two very strong bishops. Owen plays bishop to e3. I would recommend for any player in the first 10, maybe at a stretch the first 15, but really the first 10 moves you want to castle, shuffling your king into the corner and bringing your rook in, which we shall see later on. g6, as we suggested back here, looking to push this pawn, pop the bishop there and have two bishops. A terribly drawn arrow, the two bishops there, very, very strong. 6, d4, looking to claim this center. We go these four squares are known as the sweet center in chess. If you can control these four and place your pieces on these four, you're going to have a much more comfortable game than your opponent, because the center of the board is where all the pieces want to be. That's the best squares to control on the chessboard. So takes, pawn takes, and a knight takes. Now note, this knight is attacking this knight, but they're both defended. So there's no tension, there's no pressure just yet. This knight is defended by the bishop and the pawn. This knight is defended by the bishop and the queen. So two defenders for each knight. There's not much tension at the moment. Putting the bishop there. Be careful there. This knight has two attackers. The concept of attackers and defenders is a very, very common one. This knight has two attackers, but we needn't worry. It also has two defenders. So that's okay. If that number becomes unbalanced, 3 on 2 or 4 on 1, then you need to slow down and make sure all your pieces are defended nicely. Defended sufficiently. This knight has two defenders, which that number 2 sort of neutralizes the attackers, where there is 2. So that knight's okay. Bishop to c4, very, very strong move. This is a really, really nice setup for white, having the pieces here ready to castle. Maybe bring the queen up here and you can start an attack. If black castle shot. Some really, really nice piece play. From Owen here, control of the center. This bishop's going to look fantastic. If the bishop can just drop back to this square, he's pretty safe. He's also looking at the f7 pawn, which we have seen in previous videos how weak that pawn can be. e6, a quiet move. Not only preparing the knight to move to here, it could also move there. It's a flexible move, but that is much more than a pawn push. A lot of players may think, oh, okay, black's just pushed the e-pawn one square forward. And what is the meaning behind that move? If we look here, this square has no defenders at all. White's attacking it 3 times. That's pretty heavy. Playing e6 defends this square, therefore allows black to play d5 with some support. It also creates a square for the knight or the queen. Let's say the black knight were to move to here, black's queen can move to there, and they could castle. So castles from white, d5, as we suggested here. Pushing e5 supports the d5 push and attacks the pawn as well as this bishop. This bishop, please note, is undefended, but a chess term is hanging. Any piece that is undefended, it is hanging. So this pawn, this bishop, anything else, this pawn, and the two rook, and this rook are undefended. They are hanging pieces. If you attack a piece that is hanging, your opponent has to react. Whether they block the attack, they do an attack of their own, or they just move the piece quietly out of the way. You've got options. Castles, d5, attacking the bishop, asking this bishop, what are you doing? And the bishop goes, I'm not sure. I'll take your pawn. There are actually 4 ways to deal with an attack. If I attack one of your pieces, you can A, move the piece. Pretty good, well done. B, attack one of my own pieces. Quite scary. C, block the line of attack. So if it's a long-range piece, you can intercept. Or D, a slightly more, I guess, obscure one, is to actually capture the attacker. So if I attack you with a knight or a bishop, you can block my bishop, you can take my own bishop, you can attack another of my pieces, or you can just move your piece out of the way. That's fine. Here you can move your bishop, it's absolutely fine. But Owen goes for a slightly more aggressive approach, taking his opponent's piece. So captures and captures, reigniting the attack on the bishop. Although, Michael has opened his king up very slightly. A quick maneuver with the knight, and the queen and the king should be safe. You don't want to leave your king in the center. Owen's castled. His king's safe. His king's happy. The bishop takes the pawn. What? What? How is that possible? Well now. Oh, let's get rid of those. The whole point... No, I don't want the green. There you go. The whole point of pushing the pawn was the whole point of pushing e6, sorry, was to support the push on 5. But after pawn takes, how many defenders does this pawn have? Give you a few seconds to figure it out. The answer is 1. Or it's 2. I'm not sure. It's actually 2, which is a bit weird. Directly, there is the queen. Indirectly, there's the bishop. So there's 2. Well, 2 and 1, but 2 indirectly. The moment this knight moves, this bishop's defending the pawn. But there are 2 direct attackers and 1 indirect attacker. So we look at direct defenders and direct attackers. 2-1 to white. Not good. If we include the indirects, well, there's 2 defenders, but 3 attackers. Okay, white's still in favor there. So a bit of a miscalculation here from Michael. Pushing the pawn, takes, and bishop takes. You could also take with the knight. Your variation, that's absolutely fine. Bishop takes. This is a bit of an issue. This pawn, that's not even a pawn. Wow, that's a knight. Or a horse. Up to you. I call it a knight because that's the chess term. But again, attackers and defenders. How many defenders? Not indirect, direct, whatever. How many defenders does that knight have? Well done if you said 1. The bishop. The bishop is defending this knight. How many attackers How many of white's pieces are attacking that black knight? Well done if you said 2. The bishop and the knight. So quickly, Michael needs to defend. He can move his queen, add another defender, because then it would be 2 attackers and 2 defenders. To any of these squares would be fine. Move the rook over there, that would be fine. He could also rather sneakily move the knight away here. If you notice, A, I'm getting out of the attack from the bishop. B, I'm defending my own bishop. Quite a cool move. So if bishop takes here, you could take with the knight, and you're fine. That's okay. But what Michael played was knight f6. Well, that was still part of the plan, wasn't it? To move the knight out of the way and to castle. Yes, but that's what Michael missed. Owen took here with the bishop. Michael recaptured and took with the knight. So here, 2 attackers, 2 defenders if the queen had moved, but she didn't. Michael just had a bit of tunnel vision, really focused on his plan to castle. He missed this. He could have also done knight takes, attacking the queen. Be a bit careful. Bishop takes and bishop takes. I would have preferred this way because you have check and you're attacking the rook. It's called a fork. When one piece attacks 2 or more of your opponent's pieces, it is called a fork. Imagine like a fork at the dining table, Poseidon's trident thingy. Yeah. So here, black would have to react. You don't really want to give up your queen, although you can intercept with your queen. Don't. You move the knight out of the way to intercept, move the knight, sorry, to intercept the check. You would take the rook, and queen takes, and then maybe white would just bring the rook to the center where it belongs, facing up against black's king. Black unfortunately can't castle, because then they lose the knight. You can straight away see that's why I would have taken here with the knight first, but that's fine. Owen took with the bishop. Bishop takes, knight takes, attacking the queen twice. Da, da, da. But the queen's defended. But you don't want to lose it to the knight, so the queen just calmly, quietly steps out of the way. Also, this queen is perhaps pointing at the king. To look like a queen, the bishop, and the rook, they are long-ranged pieces. Use that range. Knight drops back, says, whoa, 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 man. Do what you're doing now. Attacking the knight, we could defend the knight. Somehow, we could play the queen to here. You see that green dotted arrow? Means defense, and the red dotted arrow is showing what pieces we are attacking. So, new variation, we are putting pressure. We can't capture the knight yet, because it is defended by the bishop. But we're putting pressure to the knight. We are also defending this knight, and indirectly X-raying the rook at the back of the board. But that's fine. Owen just said, nope, I'm going to drop my horse back, drop it back. That's fine, I have 2 knights and a bishop versus a knight and a bishop. White would be up a piece. All the chess pieces can come under the term of material. So here you would say white is up material. White is winning. White has a better position. Finally, black castles by move 14, just in time of the 15 move. It's not a rule, it's sort of a personal rule I like. It's not a rule in chess, you must castle by move 15. There are many, many openings where you don't castle at all, and your king's okay in the center. Generally, you don't want that. These 2 kings are very safe behind their wall of pawns, and so it is going to be down to the other pieces. The knights, the bishops, the queens, and eventually the rooks, to battle it out and try and checkmate your opponent. So let's see what happens. Knight b5. Why does it say knight c? You may wonder. Well, both knights could have moved to the b5 square, but this knight is on the c file, and this knight is on the d file. If you don't know what I'm talking about, then please refer to the video of Chess Basics on piece, value, and moving to understand what a file and a rank is. This knight could have moved, but this knight, remember, is on the d file. So that's why it says knight d to b5. This is the d knight, this is the c knight in this example. That's why it says knight c to b5. To clever move. The knights are defending each other. That's pretty cool. You're also attacking the enemy queen, saying, what are you doing? Questioning your opponent's pieces. Always question. What are you doing? What's your plan? I'm going to go over here. A rather cool move. Bit of pressure there. This knight could maybe drop in. Of course, the queen's covering the square, so not yet. Maybe push the pawn, defend the square, and checkmate your opponent. That's quite an aggressive way of playing. But let's see how white plays. Rook to c1, behind the c-pawn, looking to push it up the board. It's got some support. It has something to lean back on if it needs any assistance. Knight to g4, as I said, ready to charge in there. Checkmate in one. Da, da, da. Do not be fooled by pushing the pawn. I'm going to attack this knight. Aha, what are you doing, knight? Well, I don't care. Checkmate. In 17 moves. That's a quick game. Nah, that didn't happen. Here, I'm not sure why, but Owen missed. He can actually take this knight. It's undefended. Michael should have played with h4. Adding support to this square. White could have played this, maybe? Aligning the rook with the queen. Quite nasty, that one. This bishop moved out of the way, and, well, it's a bit awkward. But now the knight can move to g4 because it has support from the pawn. Again, threatening checkmate. And this queen, it shouldn't capture this knight because the pawn would just recapture. But no, Michael went in quite bravely. Owen missed he could take it, and instead slid the rook over into the center of the board, attacking the queen. These two files, the E file and the D file, are where you want your rooks. If you can get both your rooks, one on the D file, one on the E file, you will have a very nice game, and you should be winning. You should have a comfortable game. Kind of bold statement, you should be winning. No, that's the best place for your rooks. Like I said with the bishops, the best place for the bishops are on the long diagonals. So the red arrows indicate the best lines for the bishops. The green arrows indicate the best places for the rooks. And Owen's done that, attacking the queen. So I can shimmy my bishop out of the way and have a, insert chess term here, discovered attack on the opponent's queen, which is quite nasty because this bishop could do its own thing. This bishop could say move up here, attacking the bishop. At the same time, there's a discovered attack on the opponent's queen, which could be very nasty. So I'm going to take the bishop. Get rid of it. I don't care. Rook takes, again, reigniting the threat on the queen. Owen's playing this very well. You see the rating is slightly higher on Owen's side, but by not much. Anyone can work that out? Great. 185. That'll do. But attacking the queen. What does Michael do with his queen? He slides it over. Still pressure on the rook, pressure on this knight, but lining it up with the opponent's king. This could get really ugly. But Owen is up a piece, remember? And 2 knights and 1 bishop. The queen, she's a queen, okay. The rooks are called major pieces. The 2 knights and the 2 bishops are called minor pieces. In this position, you could say white is up material. That's true. But to be more correct, you could say white is up a minor piece. They're up a knight. Whether it's a knight or a bishop, it doesn't matter. If they're up a rook, you would say they're up a major piece. Here, white is up a minor piece and is winning. They should have a comfortable position and shouldn't be worse or losing. Rook to e7, a very, very strong move. Maybe trying to move the queen up here, swing the rooks over, and have 2 rooks on the open file is very, very strong. 2 rooks defending each other is very, very useful for attacking. Moving up here, there's some pressure on this pawn, some pressure on this pawn. Black a bit tied down, these rooks. Well, this rook hasn't moved. All of white's pieces are off the original squares. Save the pawns. But there's no instant attack just yet. Oh. Maybe Owen missed that. He moved his rook up, looking for a strong rook, but the queen protects it. Oh dear. Now, if that rook had protection, how could we give that rook some protection to go to this square? Well, we could move the queen over. New variation. Queen and rook are lined up. whenever a queen and a rook or a queen and a bishop are lined up on the same diagonal or the same file or the same rank, it is called a battery. And these queen and this rook create a battery on this E file. So the queen and the rook can now move very freely up this board. Possibly not there because black is, pretty in control of that square. But now black plays a move. I don't know what. Let's say this. Probably not, because you could take this pawn. Let's say this. Variation. You can now move the rook to here. You see, it's defended long range by the queen. But maybe Owen didn't think that. The rook captured. Now this is where it gets a bit awkward. Both players have 4 pieces. They have 2 rooks versus 1 rook. But there are 2 knights, and 1 bishop, and 1 queen. So what does that mean? Well, what that means is white has a knight for black's bishop. There are a queen each. It's quite nice. I have a minor piece each. Okay, that's good. And they have a rook each. But black has a rook for white's knight. A major piece for a minor piece. Therefore, you would say to black, they are up the exchange. They have 1 major piece for 1 minor piece. Or if it's 2 for 2, it's exactly the same. Black is now up the exchange. But let's see what happens. Queen d3. Queen moves to the d3 square. Nice queen. Central queen. She's pretty good. She's going to create some room, maybe to bring this rook along to attack this queen. Nice clear plan. Moving the rook behind the queen. What is this called? It's called a battery. Well done. Very powerful staring here. Please note, the white king has no, insert chess term here, escape square. So if white plays a simple move, I'm just going to move this pawn up here. New variation, there's check. Attacking the king. You may think, oh, I'm an idiot. I've given away my queen. Well, then rook takes. Yes, exactly. Rook takes again. Queen blocks. Rook takes. And king takes. You've now started to trade pieces off. It's called reducing or liquidating the position. Black's advantage becomes even more pronounced, being up the exchange, having a rook for a knight. Go back to here. Nice. h3, a little escape square. So now, if white were to make the foolish move here of moving the queen, remember we had our queen here defending this square. She's no longer there. So black can pounce in with rook e1, sorry, queen e1, check, rook takes e1, and checkmate. There is nothing to intercept the checkmate, and there are no escape squares for this white king to run away to. That is why h3 was played. A little hidey hole. The king can sit here, and he's pretty happy, pretty safe. But Michael missed that. He thought this was going to be checkmate. Like we looked here. Maybe Michael was expecting this line, and Michael's advantage would become even more pronounced. But he missed that Owen had created a little escape square for his king. Just slide the king into the corner. It exactly works with g3. Exactly the same. That's okay. But h3 is quite nice. You've got a little cubby hole just the king to shuffle into. But maybe Michael missed that, because he went queen here, rook takes and rook takes. Maybe Michael was expecting queen blocks. New variation, rook takes and king takes. And as we've said before, black's advantage is becoming clearer and more pronounced. But the king had an escape square. Oh dear. So now let's look at the material. A minor piece for a minor piece. And then 2 major pieces for a queen and a minor piece. This could be interesting. Both have 3 pieces. Let's see what happens. Bishop to e5 check. A very strong, very strong move there from Michael. g3. Here, we can't move the king because the rook covers these squares. We can't take the bishop because none of our pieces have the ability to do that. And we can't create a threat of our own because we're in check. Check is incredibly powerful, so there's only one move left. We can't take it. We can't move our king. We can't create a threat of our own. So we have to block the check. We could block with the pawn, but then they would just take it. Not great. They could block with the queen, but again, they would just take it. Not great. So Owen blocked with the pawn, and now this king has a little bit of space here, maybe to venture out when it's safe. Very nice move again by Michael, lining up his rooks. Very, very powerful pieces, creating a battery. So this bishop could move, and suddenly the two rooks can be helping each other. F4, questioning the bishop. Owen says to Michael's bishop, "What are you doing? What are you doing on that square? You're going to knit back? Are you going to take my knight? What are you going to do?" "Well, I'm going to take the knight." Now this is the crucial position of the game. We've had a few, we've paused, we've analysed, we've explained ideas. Here, if you take with the knight, your variation, white is winning. White is a fantastic position. They are up a pawn, queen and knight against two rooks. Generally, about 80% of the time, the queen and knight should win. But, note, queen takes, played, and that loses the game. What? That seems ridiculous. Well, flip the board, black to play and to win the game. Michael Coyne, Dynamite 94, found this. He found a way for black to win the game. I'll give you a couple of seconds to see if you can find it as well. Well done if you found this. Rook to e2 check. We may argue, okay, there's two rooks, there's no escape squares, so we can't move the attacked piece. We can't create our own threat because we have no pieces to put the opponent in check, and while you're in check, you can't put your opponent in check. That doesn't work. So we can't take the rook. None of white's pieces can do that. So we need to intercept. Can any of our pieces block these two red lines? Yes, our queen can. And that's exactly what was played. Queen blocked, and rook takes. Dynamite won with checkmate. 27 moves. Notice here, the queen is covering this square. So if you take with the knight, this no longer works. Oh no, remember, attackers and defenders. How many pieces are attacking this square? 2. How many are defending? 2. So with rook check, it's actually even better to just block with the knight. Because after rook takes, queen takes, you're up a queen. White is just up a queen. And up a pawn. You're up a pawn and a queen. I much prefer to be up a queen than a pawn. Here, you could take with a queen. That's absolutely fine. You're up a knight. Great. You should win that one. It's probably better to be up a queen, I think. And I think anyone from this position could win with white. But that was the slight issue Owen made. He took with the queen. This queen is now no longer protecting this square. No! Okay, can still intercept when the check comes in, but this king has no escape squares. He's got no room. Blocked in by his own pieces. So check. Only move. Queen blocks. And rook takes. Checkmate. This king is attacked. He has space to move. They're both covered. No way we can capture this rook. And so that would be checkmate. This is all the notations, all the ideas we've looked at. And it's been quite an interesting game. White was doing better, then black was doing better, then white was doing better, and made a slip up at the end, which was checkmate. So hopefully you enjoyed that, you found it useful, and please do check the other videos in my other series of chess basics. Is series 1, and series 2 is chess opening tricks and traps.